Buenos tardes from Monterey, Mexico.
Today we're going to talk about 4 cities in Mexico that we visited and absolutely love, but we think they're really underrated and do not get a lot of tourist attention, at least not international tourist attention.
Yep, so let's get into it.
Let's do it. Alright, so we'll start with one that's probably pretty obvious since we started the video here, and that's Monterey. Now this is probably going to be one of the more controversial ones because we get a lot of people saying that they don't like Monterey or it's not worth visiting. You know, it is known for being a very industrial city. It's called like the industrial heartland of Mexico. It's not known for its history or its colonial charm or anything like that. It's more of a modern city based around industry, production, and it's got like a big economy and things like that. In fact, most of the tourists that come to Monterey are what they call business tourists who are there for work and they're just there seeing the sights. But I'm telling you, Monterey is insanely underrated.
We keep finding ourselves coming back to Monterey.
Yeah.
It's literally because the quality of life is amazing in our opinion. To be one of Mexico's largest cities, it just doesn't get talked about that much.
Monterey has really a lot going on. I mean, of course it is only a few hours driving below the US border, so that helps too. But also it is just surrounded by these incredible giant peaks. They're just, every time we see them, we're surprised again just how dominant they are over the skyline. And they literally look like something out of Hawaii. Makes you feel like you've entered into Jurassic Park.
Look around me, you guys. This is Parque La Huasteca, and we had to come see this place for ourselves because, as you can see, just surrounding me are massive limestone rock formations, beautiful, beautiful mountains in every direction.
You have the richest city in Mexico right outside of downtown Monterey. You have towering skyscrapers, and then you have these really condensed neighborhoods running up into green hills, and then you have your busy market streets, bustling markets that we love so much about Mexico. You have some really, really amazing parks that feel like you're in a city in the future. So it just has so much going on.
All compiled into one city. So how could you not love it?
Yeah, it also has pedestrian-only streets. It's got some of the best food in all of Mexico because it accommodates so many different types of people who are there for work. So you have, obviously Mexico's food is very regional, but you have so much of the food that we've eaten as we travel across Mexico all available in Monterey because you have every type of person from all over Mexico living there. It's very affordable compared to like a US vacation, and I honestly would rather vacation there than most places in the US. Also, the area outside of Monterey is unbelievable for nature, for hiking, climbing, biking,
waterfalls.
Outdoors.
Yeah, the waterfalls are amazing in that area as well, which is just another thing that I think would shock a lot of people if they don't know much about the area. If you're driving down from Texas, you literally come up on these massive mountains, waterfalls. It's like an oasis.
Obviously, it's not a perfect city with the size and all the industry. You have some very big cons. The biggest, definitely the smog. Really depends on what day you're there. We've seen the smog be really bad and we've seen it not be an issue at all.
Yeah, sometimes it's completely covered up the mountains and you wouldn't even know that the city had mountains.
That comes with the territory of a big city and all that industry. With the big size, you have obnoxious traffic and things like that. So it's not a perfect place, but it's pretty damn close. But also the city is really starting to market itself as more of a outdoor lovers destination, and they're starting to develop more trails and focus a lot on natural beauty the city has to offer. So I think going forward, the issue is going to improve.
Jumping over to the Yucatan Peninsula, the next city on our list is Campeche. So this city is absolutely gorgeous. It's only 2.5 hours away from Mérida, which is a city that we lived in for a while. And when we visited Campeche, we were shocked at how beautiful it was. So it is one of the only walled cities in the country of Mexico. It was fortified in the 17th century due to pirate attacks, but it has been completely well preserved. And inside of the wall, the city is a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful city, not to mention they call it the Rainbow City because it is so colorful. One really cool thing too is that the wall is so well preserved that you can pay a small fee and go walk on top of it, and they even have bells you can ring. The guy that works at the museum where you pay to go up the staircase, he literally said, all right guys, have fun and ring the bell on top of the wall whenever you're ready to come back down. We're ready to leave the wall. We've got to go down the steps, and what do we got to do?
We've got to ring this bell to notify them that we're ready to leave. Sure you're ready to leave?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so we actually ended up being in there for a long time just because it's really nice to walk along the top of the wall and check out all the amazing views.
Yeah, it gives you great views of the city. And not only that, there are fortresses that you can go visit as well that are extremely beautiful, and those are also turned into a museum as well.
Yeah, it is amazing. I mean, Campeche is one of my favorite cities in all of Mexico. I mean, when you visit, you're going to fall in love with it, I guarantee it. So many charming, narrow streets, one of which that literally becomes entirely for dining, where they just put dining tables all down the street. There's beautiful cafes. The main city center is gorgeous, like many places around that area in Mexico. But also, one of the best things about Campeche is it is right on the water.
Right on the water.
A beautiful seaside city. It's small, but not too small. You have like a malecon, which is like a walkway right along the water. We visited a lot of walled cities in Europe, and it's among the best of the best walled cities I've ever visited as far as how well it's been preserved and how charming it is.
It's amazing. And honestly, all the buildings are that Baroque colonial architecture, and it's just a stunning place. And before we were living in Merida, we had never even heard of that city. How is this not a city that everybody in the world knows about and wants to visit? Because it's amazing.
Another one of the things we love about Campeche is that it is insanely friendly. It's one of the friendliest places we've been to in all of Mexico. Actually, we were at a restaurant one time, for example, and we asked about the Wi-Fi. There wasn't any, and a random guy walked up to us. He heard us asking. He says, "Yo, I have a hotspot."
Yeah, he gave us the password.
He let us on his hotspot.
That was so cool. We were trying to get to our Airbnb, and we were telling the driver what the address was, and he was like, "Oh, I speak better Spanish than you. I'll just call your host and ask him." And so he like talked to our host for like 5 minutes on the phone, and then pulled up to our Airbnb.
Yeah, honestly, we had the most amazing experiences with everyone. They were so welcoming to us. They treated us like family. If you've not been to Campeche, I cannot recommend it enough. Now, the one con I think about Campeche is that the beaches are really not that nice. Now, the Malecon in town is pretty nice, even though it doesn't have like beach access. You're just right on the water. But we did go to one of the beaches outside of town. It was nothing too special. But as you keep going further west along the Gulf Coast, the beaches really do get very, very beautiful, and they're almost empty. But if you're just talking about beaches directly outside of the city of Campeche, they're really nothing to write home about. But the city itself is amazing. It's waterfront, and you have beaches close by. Other than that, I don't think there's a single con to Campeche. It is phenomenal. Oh, the coffee there is pretty bad. Especially if you come from like Oaxaca or Chiapas or even Yucatan. We've never been to Veracruz, but heard amazing things about the coffee there. You're definitely gonna notice that the coffee in Campeche is pretty bad. All right, guys, next on our list, we're gonna go to Central Mexico. We're gonna talk about San Luis Potosi.
We didn't have much expectations for this city, but it blew us out of the water, and we really had an amazing time there.
It's one city that I think reminded us the most, or at least reminded me the most of like Western Europe. A lot of cities in Mexico kind of give you that European feel, but San Luis Potosi really gave me that vibe. It's extremely walkable. I think it has more pedestrian streets than almost any other city in Mexico, especially for that size. It's got so many parks and plazas. It is insane.
It's got a ton right in the city to walk to, but just the architecture in general, it feels like you're walking through like Brussels or like somewhere in Western Europe, because it's still colonial, but it's just much different than every other place we had been to. And on top of that, we were the only tourists in the city. Like, we were the only ones.
And it's another city where one of the main attractions for me was just walking around, enjoying the beautiful streets. Like literally, we kept stopping and going, wow, that's beautiful. Taking photos, just like Campeche, where we were just walking around, constantly stopping, because so many different beautiful views. The architecture, the streets, the way the city is set up. It's a stunning city. There is a lot of amazing things to do. Some of the best waterfalls in all of Mexico. So many things you can do in the state.
It has like insanely beautiful nature. It's a launching point for waterfall chasing. There's like an impressionist garden on the other side of the state that is on our Mexico bucket list.
And one cool thing about it too is the location is also really good for those of us in the US. It is in central Mexico, but it's on the northern side of central Mexico. So it makes a really good stopping point if you're going down to like Mexico City. It's probably the closest really colonial and charming city in Mexico to the US. It's very conveniently located. The food scene there too is outstanding. We've had some of our favorite meals. Actually, we never had anything close to a bad meal.
Yeah, never in our lives, but we actually did make a first impressions video in San Luis Potosi, and that is where we found our favorite Mexico cuisine, which is pozole.
All right, guys, and the last city on our list is probably the most well-known of all the ones we've covered here, but it is also the best in my opinion. So I'm still going to call it underrated, because as much attention as it does get, it still doesn't get enough attention. It should be world famous. I think it's one of the best cities in the entire world. That city is Pueblo. Pueblo, guys, it is unbelievable. Only 2.5 hours or so out of Mexico City. It's got volcanoes close by. Perfect climate. The friendliest people I've ever met in Mexico, if not the world. Most amazing cuisine you can imagine. I mean, it's got, of course, Oaxaca has amazing cuisine too, but Oaxaca is more well known for that. Puebla is often overlooked when it comes to its cuisine, but I don't think I've ever seen anywhere in the world that has that much street food. Literally, I don't think we ate anything except street food the entire time we were there. And we were there for a long time, guys, because we just kept extending our stay. Because it's the kind of place you do not want to leave.
Yeah, the street food is amazing, and speaking of streets, it is insanely organized and clean at that. So the streets are literally set up like a checkerboard, and it's amazing because it makes it so easy to walk around.
So the things you can do in the local area are amazing. My favorite part of Puebla is definitely the historic center, but if you go outside of that, they have modern areas, lots of contrast in Puebla as well. You also have Cholula really close by, which I think has some of the best quality of life I've ever seen in Mexico. Lots of wide open green spaces. It's known for all of its churches and cathedrals, so that's really cool. And also it has the largest pyramid by volume in the world that you can go explore. I would probably rather be there than almost anywhere at any given time.
Yeah, and I think like where we're coming from as far as calling it underrated is that we talk to a lot of people who are traveling to Mexico, and we're like, oh, what is your itinerary? And they say like something like, oh, we're gonna hit up this place and then Mexico City. They just totally skip out on Puebla, and it is amazing. I don't think that it should be skipped out on.
Yeah, a lot of people say, well, you know, if I'm visiting Mexico City, do I really need to visit Puebla? My opinion, absolutely yes. And I think especially if we're talking about cities to live in, it would be my #1 choice to live in all of Mexico at the time being. I still have to see Guadalajara, still have to explore more of Guanajuato, and I think those cities will probably be up there with it when I'm done. But at the time being, Puebla is still the #1 place where I would put down roots.
And another really cool thing about Puebla and Cholula together is that they're known as kind of the city of angels, because there are so many churches there. It's known to be the city with the most religious heritage in the country. If you're anywhere in Puebla and you get on a rooftop, you're gonna see so many church steeples. There's churches everywhere, and that's why it's dubbed the City of Angels. All right, guys, so thank you so much for watching. That is the 4 cities in Mexico that we personally think are underrated. Now, quick disclaimer, there are a lot of places in Mexico that we have yet to see. We have been to more than 20 Mexican states, and so these are just the cities that we've personally experienced that we think are underrated.
We're always looking for more places to explore, so make sure you tell us what cities you think are the most underrated, or some of the ones that you would put on the list. We're going to do a part 2 for this video for sure, because Mexico is just, it's huge, and it's obviously full of so many underrated and amazing spots.
Yeah, and I personally can't wait for that part 2, because there's so many places in Mexico that I still really want to see. Make sure you give us a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. And until next time, hasta luego.